Since she was only a few months old, Dani Henderson has been having amazing experiences with angels, demons, and aliens. And she wrote a book in 2023 titled Angels, Demons, and Aliens, where she discussed these experiences and their implications for today. And she is also the organizer for the Galactic Spiritual Informers Connection conference, which is going to be held from September 27 to 29 in Denver, Colorado. And she's here today on Exopolitics Today to discuss her latest research and the incredible presenters that are going to be going to that conference.
You're listening to Exopolitics Today with Dr. Michael Salla, your source for the uncensored truth regarding the human, extraterrestrial, global, and political agenda. Click the like button and subscribe to this channel. And now, here's Dr. Michael Salla.
Well, welcome, Denny, to Exopolitics Today. Great to have you back.
Hello, Dr. Salla. It's lovely to be back. Thank you so much for having me again.
Well, for those people that don't know about you, and there's always new people coming to Exopolitics, so I just wanted to give them a brief introduction to you. Now you've had a lifetime of contact experiences, and in 2023 you came out with your first book on angels, demons, and extraterrestrials. Why don't you kind of like give people a kind of quick summary of what you covered in your book and your background?
Thank you. You know, a lot of people, I would say most people in this life have had some kind of a spiritual experience, whether it's through religion, whether it's through an alien experience or a dark earthbound entity, scary nightmare, monster, going back to childhood for many people, or a straightforward ET. And in my lifetime, from as far back as I even have memory, I've been having these interactions and witnessing, whether it's clairvoyance, which is clear seeing, whether it's clairsentience, which is clear feeling, whether it is clear cognizance, which is clear knowing, or whether it's clairaudience, which is clear hearing. We call them the four clairs. The reason why I finally finished this book, I started writing it years ago, and then I would think, well, who's going to care? Who's going to know? And then we've all been witnessing this kind of awakening, this ascension time that we're all in. Every single one of us is not a person on the planet not affected by the ascension of Mother Gaia, Pachamama, Mother Earth, you know, whatever you want to call this planet. As we are connected with her and we have these soul contracts with her, we're in balance with her. So it stands to reason if she's upgrading in her consciousness, which she clearly is, then we beings that reside with her, upon her, and connected to her are going to be raising consciousness and frequency too. That means that many of us are being forced to look at childhood, being teenagers, being young adults, and after and up to the present moment. And so anything that we've shut away, that we've blocked out, that we haven't been able to face, whether we believe it or not, whether we've been programmed in and out of a belief system, whether we had religion at a certain age, which told us, if you ever experienced aliens or demons, they're the same thing, which they're not. That's an absolute lie, a false lie. Angels, demons, and aliens are separate entities. However, there are some dark, demonic, lower vibrational, earthbound, etc. entities that you know can mimic the angelics and the good ETs. Absolutely. So I thought it was important it's nothing better than experience. And so I can sit and speak with absolute clarity, validation, verification, and proof of my experiences, knowing that people that read my book will recognize themselves in it. They'll recognize themselves. I mean, there's some other person that had experiences with angels, demons, and aliens. And so many people have written to me since I released it saying, oh my God, I saw myself, this happened to me, I can connect to it, this is real, this is true. Thank you. Finally, someone had the courage to speak out in these ways. And, you know, we're all here to heal. You know, we are all in a mass healing, a mass awakening, all of us, no matter what way you want to cut it up, put a label on it, put a sticker on it, it doesn't matter. None of us are above another, no one above another. None of us should put ourselves in an elite position. The people that do, they have the most work to do on their spirituality, on their soul, on their childhood. And the childhood aspect is always going to be there, no matter where you go in the world. If you haven't given yourself time to heal, look at, recognize that you've gone through things, and as you know, there are certain blocks that we get. We can't remember certain periods of time. We don't know why. They could be trauma based. That could be the brain blocking us from trauma, because the brain is programmed for pain and pleasure. So when something happens to a child, for example, the brain is brilliantly created to block that, to stop us from going into that pain point. But we're at a stage now where all of that is being asserted. The old programs don't work. They're not holding. The old systems are crumbling. And so now we're at this massive, beautiful point of ascension and acknowledgement of self, Yeah,
I think the whole concept of angels, demons, and aliens, you described three entities, but yet there's kind of like some conflation or some kind of like mixture of those three. And I think that's very important, that we understand what you mentioned, mimicking, that people think of demons and they think of the Hollywood caricature of demons, dark, ugly, demonic entities. But you mentioned that they would actually mimic forces of light or angels. So, how does that happen? Now, can you explain how these demons could mimic angels or could mimic extraterrestrials?
They have an ability to camouflage, to do and be whatever they want. So people in the world, some people, and I know some of these people, and I feel desperately sad for them because they truly are not aware. They are linked directly into grey programming. We have to look at the fact that as we're in this time of all systems coming down, there has been a grey alien agenda. Nobody paying attention can dispute that. It's not a make-up. Because even the government, the American government, have had to admit that there were accords signed and agreements signed, particularly in the time of Dwight Eisenhower. And it is a well-known fact that the governments on our planet have been liaising with aliens for a very long time. Titter ye not, skeptics. It's all there in the records, the unredacted records. And the great aliens are a foul species, in my personal opinion. They have done heinous things that we can't imagine, and things that we're aware of. And they are some of the worst mimics, the worst liars. One of the biggest lies the grey aliens told was that they were an advanced future us. Now, the future is not grey. The future is human. That was one of the big lies they told. So we were people were going round and round saying, no, this is how we advance. Well, I don't want to look like that. And they stink to high heaven. They smell of sulfur. Nobody wants to smell of fart. They're hideously ugly, and they don't care about us. They had more power than we did as a humanity, which is why some of the deals were done. They did a deal with Eisenhower, as you well know. We've long talked many times on your channel with very many people that you've spoken to. And we know the old story of the Eisenhower administration and the things that happened there. The Greys were coming here to abduct a certain amount of people because they were saying, our planet is dying. Help, we need some samples. Oh, shut up and sit down. Nobody cares about you, great aliens. But the point is, Michael, that they have lied and infiltrated. They have put literal insertion programs into people's minds. They get triggered at certain times. There are people that claim to be this, that, and the other, and they are being run by a grey agenda, because looking glass technology and other technology always showed a time such as this, where they were all going to be found out. The Greys and the reptilians were removed off our planet in 2021. A lot of people have issue with that. That's okay. That's your journey. But this is what I know and understand and believe. And so the Greys still have found ways to have access. And so they are mimicking through people who are channeling, for example, or saying they're this person and they're that person, or their father is this great Arcturian, or it's really sad, but it is very prevalent and really does happen. And that's one of the ways to explain, the mimicking, for example, of the Greys in particular.
Well, that is really important what you just shared. I actually was doing due diligence on a very popular channeler of extraterrestrials, and I was thinking, oh, this would be a person that I'd like to interview for my channel. And so I was just listening to an interview of her, and as I was listening to it and just kind of like trying to resonate and feel, at a certain point I felt that, okay, this person is spewing disinformation here. And then I saw very, very clearly in her eyes, I could see in her eyes the grays. I could feel that. And I thought, wow, what a really clever way to infiltrate. Because this person is very, is kind of like, is a millennial, very attractive, with a big audience. And I thought, what a great way to infiltrate and to confuse people, that you get these young, attractive channelers who are unconsciously putting out a grey agenda, which is one of obfuscation and confusion. And you put them out there and they're supposedly channeling, the Federation. And you confuse the heck out of people. And I think that's exactly the way in which the grey agenda operates.
You know what's so interesting about that is that I feel so sorry for that girl too, bless her. There's a very sweet part of her, and she went through some horrors as a young girl, like a lot of people who've been abducted have. But she knows full well that she is channeling this information and continues to carry on. And I just send her love. I truly do. But it is scary because so many people are looking for answers, and then they find someone and they like the look of them, the sound of them. And then what happens is, for example, I've spoken out to protect people, about this person you're referring to. And then the human instinct in people is one of, don't pick on her, that's terrible. And that's how humans respond. We respond because at our innate base, we're actually caring, loving people. We don't want to see anyone bully someone else, say something nasty about somebody else. It's very difficult. But also, I say I, myself, and you too, Michael, we have a responsibility. We really do. And we have a responsibility to put information into the field that we know. It's verified, it's validated, and it's proven. And so we take all the arrows, and we take a lot of arrows from people and a lot of abuse and attacks from people, but we know what we're doing.
Mm-hmm. Well, I wanted to share something, and I want to get your reaction to it, and it's personal. I remember being very young, 5, 6 years old, something like that. And I remember, I don't know if this is something I've shared with you, but I remember very clearly having an experience where I woke up and I walked down the hallway of my home and I went into the main living room, and I saw this luminous white being, looked like an angel, just shining white light. And it just like, and to the side, my father was worshiping this being. And I was kind of like, wow, that's amazing. And I looked at this being and I focused on it, and I kept looking at it. And as I focused on this being that looked like a radiant angel, as I looked closer and closer at it, I could see that it was like a dark entity masquerading as an angel. And I guess I have that ability to do that from very early on. Which is why I do this work, because I think it's all about being able to uncover the tricksters, uncover those that are impersonating the light. So yeah, do you want to elaborate on that? Is that your experience as well?
That is a perfect example. When, especially a child, because the children, they're so much closer to the light from whence they came. They haven't been as ruined or destroyed or impressed upon or pressed down or systemized yet, because we're all systemized. We go to school, we're schooled and we're groomed into every system of belief, because the adults tell us that's where they catch you. By the time a child is 7, that is generally the time when the lid is put on. Between 0 and 7, the children are the most open. Another reason why those who are, let's say, harmed, because we have to be careful of the words that we use, in terrible ways are targeted. But the description that you give there is very, very much a globally shared experience, where especially a child has looked at something but been able to feel that underneath has been able to, with its solar plexus, its heart, its whatever, its normal, its psychic senses that we all have, to feel the difference in the vibratory resonance, because energy doesn't lie. So no matter what we're looking at, how beautiful, how glorious, how amazing, we can feel. But often we're trying to be so polite as groomed and schooled humans, we choose to ignore, like the girl with the gray agenda, you know, because other people see her and they want to protect and they want to ignore. And we make the mistake. We ignore. We should always go with our first impression. It doesn't mean that impression can't change. Sometimes we look at someone and it's a lesson for us. Sometimes it's a mirror. We're all mirrors for each other. Sometimes we get triggered and we don't like them. We don't know why, because there's something in us to look at. But invariably, what you're saying about looking as a child and seeing, I remember I interviewed you years ago and you shared that story and you said it was like a Casper, the ghost. That was one of the ways that you could describe it. But yeah, the vibratory resonance is really, really important. I'll give you an adult story. I was in Las Vegas. I'd written a movie script. I was passing it to a friend. Her name's Henderson Smith, and she was having a meeting with Lionsgate Studios. And we went to the Bellagio Hotel, and we're walking through the hotel, and I was ahead of Henderson, and this waitress walked past me. And she was absolutely beautiful, as a lot of people are in Vegas. And she had long black hair, massive boobs, a very tight white blouse, a little black skirt, and these huge green eyes. And she beamed at me. And she was absolutely lovely. And I beamed back. And then as soon as she walked past me, I felt like, oh, whoa, what was that? What was that bounce in frequency as she passed my field? I looked back. And she'd gone behind a machine, one of the pull-down banjo things. I don't know what you call them, the coin machines. And she looked back and she was a demonic, and she went, and she looked like a bloody witch, and her hideous energy. And the reason why she showed me her true self was because she recognized as she passed my frequency field, my aura, my beingness, that we all have, of course, that I picked up, I felt it. And she knew I felt it, and then, you know, tried to give me a spanking for it. But that's another beautiful, perfect analogy and true experience I had with a physical being who was mimicking. So the being that she showed me was living inside this beautiful package. This beautiful girl that walked past me was utterly and entirely possessed by this somewhat demonic, very dark energy.
Now, you mentioned children, and I think that's very important, that children have this ability to discern the angelic from the demonic. And some children are star seeds, and they carry with them this higher vibrational energy, and maybe come from higher dimensions and so forth. And so they have this talent or this mission to help expose the dark agenda, the demonic agenda on planet Earth. And so many of those children very early on are targeted by these organizations that are satanic, and many of them undergo abuse. And today that's kind of like SRA, satanic ritual abuse. So I know you did an interview very recently with this lady from Australia, Rachel Vaughan. So yeah, can you walk us through how this kind of SRA happens with these talented children who have the gift to be able to achieve higher dimensional awareness, but then they're targeted by these Satanist organizations?
Yeah, I'm so glad that you saw that. And Rachel Vaughan, as we can see there, is one special being on our planet. Rachel Vaughan was born into a high elite satanic family. And I know you should get her on your channel because she's just so brilliant, intelligent. And it's amazing that she survived with her physical body, just like Kathy O'Brien, Gloria Masters, Jeanette Archer. And Rachel Vaughan shares how she was born into an elite satanic family. Her father was funded by governments, and he ran different rings in Australia that still exist to this very, very day. And Rachel was born with, I think it's called heterochromia, which is a certain color, eye color, green, blue, when I always call them the flowers of the eyes, that when you look into your pupils, you'll see a ring around the pupil, not the body of the color of the eye, but the ring of the pupil. And there's a set of colors there. And some children are born with, like hers are like more brown orange mix, some are green yellow, some are blue green. And these predict the level of ability a human child might have. And so they target children with those certain eye colors too, as an aside, knowing that they will have a special psychic ability. Now with Rachel, she was born into this high elite satanic family, long intergenerational family, ancestral generational sexual abusing family. And there are many stories of her father who's now dead. There's lots of documentation in Australia. She's in Adelaide, Australia, and she was witness to many unaliving of children, of babies, of young adults, of grown adults, of pregnant adults. And Rachel Vaughan is one of the bravest people I know. And she brings what they call receipts, not a socially engineered phrase of this time, but meaning that she brings proof and verification, names, places, burial places, all kinds of information. She's extremely special. She was taken to the point of being unalived many times, but because she is what we call a marked child, she was never taken to the point of no return. And her psychic abilities were very much trained upon, improved, and she has incredible ability to this day. Now, to this day, she's now speaking out on the satanic ritual abuse that she survived, naming names, kicking ass, and helping many people heal from their trauma. She does a lot of one-to-ones. I don't know how she has the energy to do it, frankly, but she does. One of the most intelligent speakers out on satanic ritual abuse at this moment in time.
We recommend people watch that interview that you did with Rachel on your channel. Now, how important is it to clear the energies or the kind of trauma that's created by these kind of SRA rituals where children and people undergo this? So how important is that, clearing that energy at an individual level and collectively for our evolution as a planet?
I mean, like I said, at this moment in time, we are all at a reckoning with self, no matter what has happened to us, because a lot of the babies that are born into this, they're traumatized in the womb. It starts at, the point of inception, conception. A lot of the people you see that in that image have themselves come from highly abusive, murderous, awful, unthinkable situations. And they are so traumatized in the womb, at birth and since birth, because they are programmed to not feel. And there is a natural psychopathy that occurs in the mind, heart, and soul of these high elite people. They come to the point where emotion has been smacked out of them, so much to the point that they are the complete opposite. Example, if we saw a little child fall over and hurt itself, you and I, Michael, would run and race to that child. Our natural instinct, we'd stop the car, we'd do whatever to help that little one. These people at that level, they find it funny. They would do more. They enjoy the torture. To them, it is as disgusting to us, the opposite emotion they have. It is joyous, it is joyful. They enjoy fully the suffering, the screaming. When they, I don't know how far we can go with this on your channel, my love. I want to be careful. But again, we're also at the point where everyone's talking about it. They will terrorize a child, these horrible satanic people, to the point of death and back and death and back and death and back. And what they're doing, and it's really hideous. I do want to give you a graphic warning here. This is too much for you. Please turn off for a moment. But they are literally tenderizing the physical flesh of the child. They are spiking the adrenal emotion, the adrenal chemical in the body to peak the flesh and to send out the adrenal spike in the body of the child before they end its physical life. And then they will take the conclusion of that act and consume it by the fluid, by the red fluid that has been adrenalized. and by the physical flesh that has also been adrenalized and tenderized. It is absolutely the worst abomination. And the thing is, people say, oh, no, that's not true. I want to tell people right in your face that you have to look past your own, I can't imagine this. Of course you can't imagine it, darling. You'd never do it. That's why you can't imagine it. It's an unthinkable thought. But I'm telling you, in your highest levels of government, in your wealthiest, some of your wealthiest families, in your highest realms of religion, all religion, your highest realms of education, your highest realms of military, your highest realms of history, every system on this planet has an element of infiltration by these people. You may not have met them, but they are there.
One of the things that I have found, which is, I think, well worth kind of emphasizing here, is that secret space programs exist, and people are familiar with the the Navy and the Air Force, Space Force having secret space programs, and these being something that different countries have also developed. Now, what is not well understood is the extent to which these secret space programs are infiltrated or even run by these SRA groups. And that's something that I think one of the people that I've interviewed, and I know you've interviewed him and had him at your GSIC conference, and I think he's going to be at the 2024 conference, is Tony Rodriguez. And he described how he was actually, as a punishment, recruited or forced to join one of these 20 and back programs by individuals associated with these SRA groups, and he was put through the whole thing in terms of the exploitation, training, development of psychic abilities, exposed to the kind of SRA abuses, and then as he got to, the age of 17, then he got to serve with the secret space program for the remainder of his 20 years. So yeah, just wanted you to maybe elaborate on that, the connection between those behind these SRA rituals, those Satanist groups, and the connection with the secret space programs.
Tony Rodriguez, to me, is the perfect example. Although the tragedy that he's been through, he's turned it into his greatest kind of, adversary in terms of bringing information that a lot of us would never have had. Tony Rodriguez traverses elements of the system on our planet. He traverses the Satanics, he traverses the military, and he traverses the ETs, the extraterrestrial life forms that, of course, exist elsewhere on our planet and off our planet and on other planets. And again, but people are having such a hard time believing that you cannot trust NASA, that NASA do not bring the full truth. Of course they don't. And people are so groomed and programmed, just like I was, to only believe God says this means this. NASA says this means this. We have to blow that down and move on through, because Tony Rodriguez has brought to light the fact that, you see, Michael, the children that get targeted, they come from two main groups. They're either very gifted, as Tony was. When he was kidnapped, he was already in a gifted program in school. The other group of children who were targeted, outside of the Satanic families, I'm not talking about the children that are born into the Satanic families. I'm talking about the kids who are targeted in schools. The other group are the autistic, what some cruelly would call remedial, those that seem a bit slower to learn. They also target those children as well. And a lot of those children won't make it to a full grown up experience as a human, unfortunately. But Tony's insight and sharing and truth, that he upset a kid in the gifted program. There was a moment of psychic interaction between Tony and this boy. The boy was bragging to the girls he was a mind reader. Tony comes into the room and the girls say, hey, he can read your mind. And Tony goes, no, he can't. And then Tony had a moment looking at this boy, and then Tony threw him a nasty thought. And then the boy heard, and then Tony realized the boy had heard his thought telepathically. Then the boy told his dad, and at a science fair, the boy pointed Tony out to his dad. And then that night, Tony was kidnapped in his bedroom by grey ETs who took him up onto a craft and tricked him into agreeing, giving consent, telling him how important his parents would never know he was missing. And then it was 20 years of absolute hell, which he describes very clearly in his brilliant book, Series Colony Cavalier. It's funny because Elena and Danan and I are going to put out a broadcast based on when the aliens that are already here and the ETs that will come, how we have to treat them, you know, and that we don't worship them, we don't look up to them. They're people like you and I. They just got a bit more cooler technology than we have. But Tony Rodriguez stands as a really beautiful, important leader on our planet. And I mean that, and I state that, and I claim that with Tony Rodriguez. And he's the most humble guy, as you know, and that's always a tell for me as well, how humble a person is. So that when he was used up to the point of, you know, being almost unalived, used in a satanic family, he witnessed the slaughtering of other children. He was used at satanic parties. They would chain him up in a collar with other little boys, and people at this billionaire's house in Seattle would invite people to come, and the people could come in and choose a child. Just pick a kid and do what you want to it. And that's what happened. And the people at the party, some of them were told, these children are clone children. They weren't clones. They were physically human. Tony felt every second of torture that that little boy endured. Then he was passed into another arena where he was used as a drug mule on a plane going across Peru. He was there for years, and they would drug him to the point of the in-between, the near-death experience, and he would be able to psychically see if there was going to be traffic at a drug drop. He talks on massive account on this. Then once they'd almost physically finished his entire body, he was then sold into the military, and that is horrendous and horrific. There are men on this planet who were, and women, who are high generals, commanders, etc. in the military, fully aware and fully participating in this absolute horror on every level.
Yeah, Tony is a great example of someone that was put through this kind of punishment through the SRA program, and that was organized by people within the elite that have a lot of control over secret space programs and classified programs. Now, I wanted to kind of share something that occurred about 15 years ago. This was around 2008, 2009. I was contacted by what I was told was it was email, and this person contacted me and said that he was 19. Well, what happened to him? He was 19-year-old, and he was dating or seeing a 14-year-old girl. It turned out that 14-year-old girl was the daughter of someone within these secret societies, a kind of similar situation to what Tony described. So she was the daughter of someone running one of these programs, and what happened was that this 19-year-old was warned off from dating this girl, but he ignored it. And then what happened? He was kidnapped. He was brought into one of these classified facilities, and his consciousness was transferred out of his body. And he described the technology that there was like three beings. He was one. There was a dolphin in a tank, and there was a young girl, a 14-year-old girl, and his consciousness was transferred into the consciousness of this 14-year-old girl. Her consciousness was transferred into the dolphin, and the dolphin's consciousness was transferred into his body. And so he contacted me saying that, you know, I'm a 19-year-old guy, but now I find myself in this girl's body, 14 years old. What am I going to do? So my wife, Angelica, and I talked about it, and I realized that, okay, it's very dangerous for me to, communicate with what is legally a 14-year-old girl who believes that she's a 19-year-old boy. So I got my wife to become the intermediary so that I would not be entrapped in some situation. But I thought that was another example of how the elites that have this kind of like SRA or Satanic Connection are also tied in with these highly classified programs dealing with secret off-planet colonies and projects, how they can use that to punish people if you run afoul of them in any way.
Yeah, yeah. It's horrific. They are soulless, they are feelingless, and they take great pleasure in the misery and the stress and the pain and the harm of any being of any age, but particularly the young ones.
Yeah, and that to me is like terrifying technology. And apparently, as I did my research, I found out that this is something that the elites or these people involved in these satanic programs, they use it to pressure people. They use it to pressure elites, saying, hey, you don't do what we say, we can transfer your consciousness into anything we want. I mean, imagine that. Imagine if you're a high-level politician and you are told, hey, if you don't play ball with us, we're going to transfer your body into that of this attractive 14-year-old girl, and then we're just going to play with you however we want. I mean, how intimidating that must be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's horrific, but also they do things that are much more on a human level. They will do everything they can to blackmail, to trick, to fool, to coax a person. See, when you are loaded, when you have power, people, the weak ones are the ones who just crave the power and the recognition. And so there are so many people that fall foul when they're like that naturally, and they will be attracted into certain situations. So people don't seem to understand as well, because most people never think on this level, and why would they? But there are certain people that have had so many sexual interactions that they get to the point where they're like, well, I've tried everything. There is unfortunately a lot of bestiality within these environments. There is sadly also a hell of a lot of porn with children, with animals. There's also an awful, terrible amount of what they call snuff films. And Kathy O'Brien, the most beautiful friend of mine and a friend to the world, has survived to this day. Her book, as you and I both know, we've both read her book, worst book I've ever read in my life, most shocking. It's called The Transformation of America, Kathy O'Brien, and it's BRIEN. And please go to her website to get her book. Don't go anywhere else. This lady shares the most unthinkable, unimaginable stories of her own torture in these families and inside the American government. They used her, they programmed her, they groomed her. The CIA found porn that her father had made of her with her siblings, with animals. And they'd gone to him and said, you'll either go to prison or we're going to use you and pay you to continue the torture you're doing with your children, especially Kathy, this beautiful, bright little brown-eyed little girl. And she went on to be what they call presidential model, where she is tortured and tortured and tortured. They are all extremely cruel and abusive, and they torture everything out, any feeling. And so she became a robotic slave, and she talks very openly. I've interviewed her on my channel, and I love her so much. She's a good friend, and I feel for her, and I'm so proud of her. One of the bravest people ever on our planet. Kathy was told the entire time she was alive that at 30, they throw away the models, deprogrammed, the SRA'd, the sex slaves, and the spies for the government. So she was told for many years that she would die in a snuff film at the age of 30, and they were going to burn her to death. Imagine that. Imagine carrying that, knowing that. I won't say the names of the people that's still alive today that tortured her. They're in the government still. They still have leadership positions still. It's in her book. But that is an example of the people that do these heinous things in governments, in every system of power across the world. They need, a lot of them, higher and higher sexual outcomes, sexual feelings, adrenal highs. And so they go to these extents and these levels of this torture and these systems. It is very real. It is happening right now. But the biggest light is being shone upon it. Many people are coming out of it. And a lot of people, as you know, are waking up to their own repressed memories.
Well, so far we've kind of talked more about the demonic side of those that are controlling this planet, but there's also the angelic side and the extraterrestrial side. And I know at the Galactic Spiritual Informers Connection conference that you organize, that you give a lot of emphasis to those that are experiencing this kind of positive extraterrestrial and this kind of more angelic side of things. So I just wanted to play the first 40 seconds of the trailer, and then we'll just come back. So you talk about the importance of people finding and joining their star families. Why is that important?
When you tell somebody an experience that you've had without them mocking, laughing, judging, being horrible to you, something happens inside of a person that then allows them to come out and flourish and to stand strong in their story. There's nothing worse as a child than being ignored or called a liar. And we carry that with us all the way through adulthood. That doesn't get healed because we never had a chance to heal it in childhood. And every child that's now an adult knows what that feels like. When we come together with people who are open-minded, who've had incredible experiences, and you sit with somebody and you might say, hey, I had an experience with a Pleiadian and it was beautiful. And the person next to you might say, I had a really terrible experience with a reptilian, it was dreadful. But both those people aren't going to say, bloody liar, you bloody nut job, oh my God, I'm not sitting next to you. That doesn't exist in the environment of GSIC, which is Galactic Spiritual Informers Connection, the beautiful conference. The people come, they are the weirdos, the misfits, the black sheep, just like I was my whole life. The ones that have experiences or just know something. The ones that prefer animals to people. The ones that like living by themselves because they don't want to deal with the nonsense, you know. The people that are looking for something to plug into. But those people also know that come to our conferences, they know that the people that stand on that stage are verified, proven, long tenure. They didn't pop up in the COVID pandemic. They didn't just pop up on this new galactic trend. Oh, let's all say we're talking to aliens. Ooh, I'm the president of the, Galactic Federation of Light, and I'm this and I'm that. There's none of that nonsense. It can't exist. It doesn't exist. The speakers bring proof, verification, validation. We all know each other. We've all had experiences with each other on and off planet. We all give witness, testimony to each other. And there is no one above another. And that is also the beauty of the Galactic Spiritual Informers.
Well, I think it is a wonderful gathering because you have like-minded people coming there, all seeking to connect with these positive extraterrestrials, these kind of more angelic entities that are helping our planet move forward. And I think there's great power and strength in coming to a place where there's people that are seeking their star families. I think it's very important that we find those individuals that we connect with, and conferences like yours really do provide that platform. So I think it's very important that you've done that work. Now, one of the people that are presenting that I think is a really good example of this is Jerry Wills, and he is going to be, he's one of the presenters, and he's going to tell us his story about being a contactee and being a drop-off baby. You want to explain who he is and what that expression means, a drop-off?
Yeah, Jerry Wills is just such a beautiful man. When Jerry Wills speaks, you can't fail to feel the radiance from him. He radiates an energy. He couldn't care less what you think of him. He'll sit on a broadcast with me and he'll smoke a fag, and he is completely himself. I love him so much. As you know, Michael, he was one of the newborn infants that came from the Tau Ceti region in our solar system, who had an agreement, again, with the Dwight Eisenhower administration, the American government administration. And this little man was dropped off as a newborn baby. He remembers being held by his mother. He remembers his father driving a kind of craft, a flying craft. He remembers seeing space out the window, and he remembers then going on to be adopted by a childless military couple, being raised by them, and also interacting with a Pleiadian he calls Zoe. And he has continued. Many of you watching will already know Jerry Wills. He's been over, again, another long-term, tenured, proven, verified witness. And he's just so lovely. I love Jerry. I got all the time in the world for Jerry Wills.
Another one of the presenters that is going to be at the conference is Jean-Charles Moyen. And I thought it was very interesting that he found tapes from 1988 and 1992 where he talked about his extraterrestrial experiences, his psychic teleportation experiences, telepathy, and so forth. And that's important because that means that as early as 1988 and 1992 was particularly relevant because he actually went on air in the French equivalent of Coast to Coast AM, where he was interviewed by the host, the kind of like the French Art Bell, Jimmy Goyen, if I pronounced that correctly. And there Jean-Charles was talking about seeing extraterrestrials at a military base, seeing a UFO, also having experiences with Men in Black. So this is in 1992. So that's kind of like, well over 30 years ago. And that shows that these experiences that he's been sharing recently actually date back over 30 years, which I think is significant because so many debunkers and skeptics say, well, you're just making it up or you're piggybacking off, this person or that person. But here you have, Jean-Charles found this independent evidence. So, yeah, Jean-Charles, what do you think of that kind of historical information he recently found and is talking about?
Yeah, it's so unbelievably important and crucial for Jean-Charles' testimony to be heard. Not only at 4 years old did he disappear into literal thin air in front of his mum and dad, who are still alive, and they stand with their son. They speak out for their son, who's now in his 50s. 4 years old, he disappears. He was teleported somewhere. He comes back an hour later, right in the spot where he left. He then went on to have other experiences. For example, waking up in bed, knowing he's been somewhere, finding sand in his bed, having a tan from being, and again, his parents were there to bear witness to their child. There's video of him, videotape of him at 16, holding his hands in front of a drawer and the drawer opening. There is so much validated evidence that this man has been able to prove. And one of the things that maybe people don't know about the French people have a wonderful way to encourage children to write diaries and keep everything. It's a very special part of the French culture. And so it stands to reason, not only did Jean-Charles' parents, because he's their only son, he was the much beloved only child, kept all of his books and notes and things. They didn't go through them, but also he's traveled around with his possessions. And as you know, Michael, we either get memories at a certain level of time, such as now, or we find something that is relevant. And he's able to prove that he is, if you look at every single secret space program soldier that's coming out with their own testimony, Jean-Charles is the first. And he has physical evidence and he has audio evidence on a radio show in 1988, as you pointed out. Now, we don't have anyone else that we're aware of in the English-speaking world that can go back to that earliest date. Jean-Charles can and has and did. He is extremely important in this time. Another world leader of disclosure, secret space programs, but also being an ET who's come with certain skills and is here as a voice on our planet. I love this man.
Yeah, he's a very special person, and he has been putting out a lot of really important evidence supporting his incredible claims. So that's very helpful for those that are skeptically minded. Now, Elena Danaan is another French contactee, and she has been talking recently about this base or this large craft that's being assembled in the clouds of Jupiter called the Hub, and that it's intended to be a center for interstellar trade, and it's going to be run by this Earth Alliance, which is forming. And I think it has many similarities to Deep Space Nine. Those that are familiar with that Star Trek spin-off, that kind of station that was a hub for interstellar trade, and interestingly enough, very close to a portal, and there's a portal near Jupiter. So, to me, it's like, well, this is just another sign of our Star Trek future. So, what will Elena be talking about in terms of our Star Trek future?
Well, Elena Danaan to me is head and shoulders above every other single possible witness to ET proof and ET life on this planet. I have never met in my life, and neither have most of the people watching this ever heard, even acknowledged, even understood the depth of the work and the proof that this woman has brought to this planet, because she is physically still interacting with beautiful ETs who want the betterment. They want us to know that off planet, our planet is being prepared as the scummery and the twattery of the dark systems, the deep state, the cabal, the governments are all being taken down, which they are, that our planet and our humanity is going to be introduced, as it already is being, and as we will share again, new technology at our conference, the most incredible advanced technology that we as a humanity have been kept from, and we should have had it. The most amazing advanced healing technology. This planet is in for the biggest, most loving upgrade. No more will we worship celebrity. We as a humanity stand strong together, and we enjoy our connection with our intergalactic brothers and sisters. It stands to reason, yes, that we know that in the realms of Jupiter and around the moon of Ganymede, there already exists interplanetary spaceports. Of course, it's old news to the rest of our solar system, but a lot of us here have been kept in the dark in the times of dinosaurs. Let's not get started on whether they existed or not. But every story has been changed and shifted, and so now we are bearing witness. Elena Danaan has, to me, I mean, like every Monday, like today, every Monday, she puts out something on her channel, Elena Danaan on YouTube, called Star Station News. I am absolutely blown away and gobsmacked at the information that lady brings through, giving us information on what's happening, what the reptilians, they're getting an ass kicking in the universe, what's happening with those filthy greys that came and harmed people on our planet, what's happening with other beautiful factions and other species off planet. What Elena's going to bring this year to the conference, Galactic Spiritual Informers, she's going to explain the science of technology. She's going to gift introduction to the scientific aspect of us and how we connect more to the great, incredible technology that we are using our consciousness. We're not learning this in books. We're getting a bit here and a bit there, but she's going to condense her communication with us this year at GSIC, and it's the science of consciousness, the technology of consciousness. I can't wait. I'm so excited.
Well, I a few months ago did a 4-part series of interviews with David Adair, and he talked about an experience he had at Area 51 where he saw this very large engine, an extraterrestrial engine that was inhabited by a consciousness that transferred into his body, and he called it Pithalum, and he described it as being an organic consciousness that's hundreds of millions of years old. And he said that in the future that the other entities or spacecraft or a fleet that Pithalum was a part of is returning to our solar system. And it seemed to me to be kind of very similar to what Elena Danaan and JP and others have described as the kind of return of this ancient kind of like intergalactic confederation in 2021. So yeah, my question, and I know David is I think is going to be coming in through Zoom to the conference. So, what do you think? I mean, is this Pithalum consciousness that he described, is that linked into this intergalactic confederation that Elena Danaan and JP and others have been talking about that has recently arrived in our solar system?
To me, David Adair is, again, one of the most important inventors of all time. I myself categorize this beautiful, funny, intelligent. He's such a beautiful man. He's so funny, and he's so brilliant and so quick. He is responsible as an individual and working with a team over these years for so many marvels. For example, he worked on a team that created the laptop, which was going to be a portable computer that they could take inside the rocket for rocket launches. This is one example. You know, I always talk about your 4-part series with him, Michael. It is so brilliant. The Pithalum consciousness that transferred to David, I truly, truly believe is something that he connected to before he came back to this planet, and it recognizes and resides with him. It makes me sad to see people out there at the moment now claiming that they're channeling Pithalum too. Unless David Adair tells me directly, or anybody, that this is the case, I just don't believe it. But there are so many people that hear a great amazingness and then want it for themselves. So I haven't heard David say that consciousness is jumping into other people, but I truly believe him. And I think, yes, I believe that this Pithalum consciousness that resided with David, he was already a genius. He was already building rockets at 17 that far surpassed what NASA had, far surpassed what the Nazis had, and that he also shares. NASA is called catch and kill in journalism, but he would create something just mind-blowing, the cure of diabetes, for example, and that was caught and killed, and it never came out into the public. And he is, again, a huge, huge leader in disclosure at this time on our planet.
Well, there is a kind of world first in the GSIC conference that's coming up in September, and that is that JP is going to appear for the first time in public. Now, he was at the first 2 GSIC conferences, but he was in the background. This time he's going to appear and do a presentation, and I'm going to be part of that and assisting him in some way with that presentation. We're still working out the parameters of how he will appear, whether he'll be actually physically on stage, whether he'll be kind of in a room in the hotel, because a lot depends on his kind of like relationship with the US military, which is going to go through a transition very, very soon. So we're going to give more details about that in the future. So, yeah, I mean, do you want to maybe tell us, what is it about JP that makes him, to your mind, a very important presenter at this GSIC conference?
JP, thanks to you. And also thanks to you, I met Jerry Wills. Thanks to you, I met David Adair. And thanks to you, I get to talk about my beautiful friend, JP. And JP, again, is just astounding. What JP has brought to this planet in terms of proven, verified disclosure, he became the grounded counterpart to people like Elena Danaan, Alex Collier, Jean-Charles Moyen, Tony Rodriguez, forgive me if I miss other people's names, but JP was able to, I remember the very first time when he was sharing with you what it was like to fly past with the military on a craft, the moon of Ganymede by Jupiter. And he was explaining to you the emotion of it, that you feel the soul of Jupiter. And Elena Danaan and John Charles, and we were all on the phone, and they were in tears. And Alex, they were in tears and so moved to emotion because they could never prove what they'd seen. They knew that. They've been there. They've seen the Ganymede gases and the beauteous nature of it. But until JP came out, they had no proof. So people have an easier time marrying together an off-planet conversation to an on-planet military conversation. It makes people more comfortable. So JP, again, is head and shoulders a leader on the planet. And he gets such a rough time from people. He was so rude. because he speaks 3 languages. English is not his first language. The military love and trust this beautiful man so deeply that they put him out, at huge risk, but they want him to be telling the truth of what's happening, to all the spacecraft, the space escapades, the fact that we never stop going to the moon, we never stop going to Mars. And that's why I want to kick Elon Musk in the ass, because maybe he's not allowed to speak. But he damn well knows that Mars is inhabited by American military and other global militaries. People know damn well the moon has a big military base. There's so many different countries going back and forth, and I'm just tired of it, which is another reason why I created Galactic Spiritual Informers, and somehow have been gifted to be knowing these amazing people that bring the entire picture of disclosure together and can prove it.
Yeah, well, JP is very special. I know that he is someone that the military are using to reveal the truth of what's going on. I mean, currently he's serving with the US Army, and he's being given the green light to share missions. And as you said, he's shared these mission reports about missions like going to the moon Ganymede. That was part of this kind of fleet of craft from the Earth under the command or under the control of US Space Command to greet the incoming extraterrestrial visitors. And that exactly matched what Elena Danaan was being told by her sources with the Galactic Federation of Worlds. And that was really important corroboration. And for those that are skeptical, I mean, the thing is with JP, in 2017, that's when I first started to release information about him, even though I've known him since 2008, because he had photographs of different craft that were flying above MacDill Air Force Base in Tampa, Florida. And these were rectangle-shaped craft, triangle-shaped craft, and even cylinder-shaped craft. And he had photographs of them, and he shared them with me, and we released them, which is, amazing, because you have an individual who says that he's being taken on these craft and describes being taken on them, but he's got photographs of the craft, which in itself is extraordinary. But what really made JP's story, I thought, stand out above others was that he was actually being encouraged to take the photographs by members of this covert Air Force team operating out of MacDill Air Force Base. So it showed that there was some kind of agreement, some arrangement had been reached between the Air Force Special Operations and those extraterrestrials linked with JP for him to come out and share information, because that was extraordinary, that he would describe being out driving around, and then all of a sudden a white van would pull up and say, look up. And he looks up and there's a craft, and he takes a photo of it, proving that, there was a craft. So, it's not just that he's having experiences substantiating his claims of being on these craft, but he's being encouraged to take photos of the craft. So that was really amazing.
It's so special. And again, JP is such a different energy-wise. I mean, I remember he's a beautiful, big, huge, you would imagine in your mind, for some people like, Space Force, Space Command, somebody who is, involved at such a level in a military capacity, to be of this kind of certain physical stature. And he's an absolute Adonis, beautiful, but he's just so beautiful on the inside. It matches the outside. And I remember the first time I met him, I was so compelled just to put my hand on his heart. That's how we met. That's how we greeted each other. And it was beautiful, and it was emotional, and it was moving. And there's just something so special about this amazing man. I love him so much. And he's so brave and so funny and so intent. It's like today, it was you, me, Alex Collier, Jean-Charles Moyen, Tony Rodriguez, Melanie Charret, Elena Danaan, and we're all looking at different pictures of information that's kind of going out between us. I'm not sure if we're allowed to say, that there's, more technology being revealed right now across the planet. Some people are looking at what they're seeing as a potential World War III, but that's not what's happening. There are people coming together, countries coming together, and they're sharing information and technology with each other. That's probably the maximum that we can say, but that might rest the heart in some people. What do you think?
I think the technology that is being released right now is profoundly transformative. And I know you have a few presenters at the conference that are talking about that. Even JP is also being inspired to develop some of these technologies that he began working on well over a decade ago, but then stopped because they were being stolen from him. So I think this is a time when these kinds of advanced technologies are going to come out. This is part of the disclosure process. Now, one of the things that I thought was very important regarding JP and your conference is that he was given the green light to attend by his military superiors. And I know that at previous conferences, and JP said as well, and others have commented, that there were a lot of military personnel, intelligence types at the previous conferences, that there was also extraterrestrials embedded at the inside the conference. And I think, to me, this kind of like just validates that the GSIC event is like the tip of the spear in terms of helping bring about a transformation in planetary awareness of exactly who is with us, the kind of extraterrestrial contact that is happening, the different kind of technologies that exist, that are out there, that are ready to be revealed. So, I want to just kind of hand it back to you. Like, GSIC seems to be, in many levels, presenting incredible information for people that are ready for the next step in our evolution as a planet.
Yeah, 100%. There are so many conferences popping up, new ones, and good luck to them all, because it's not easy to even to run a conference at all. But GSIC is about bringing the truth to the planet. It is the premier event, and one of the things that sets us apart is that we do bring people like you, Dr. Sala, JP, Alex Collier, Elena Danan, Jean-Charles Moyen, Tony Rodriguez, Dan Willis, Dan Winter this year, David Adair. These are long-term tenured, proven people. Now, in terms of the technology that we're going to reveal this year, Dan Willis is coming back, and he has advanced the frill technology. Now, Dan Willis has been working with the most incredible off-planet information and personnel, and he, for the first time, revealed a frill energy last year, and it was a Vogel cut crystal, Marcel Vogel, certain way of cutting a quartz crystal, and he wrapped it in silver and copper, and it was in a little container, and we got to feel, us in the green room, the energy, the frill energy that it creates and responds. Now, at some point in our history, soon, in our future, should I say, I beg your pardon, we are all going to be aware of frill energy. I believe personally, these are my words, because Dan is very humble and wants me to say that this is for the betterment of humanity. So I'm respecting Dan's wishes. My own personal knowing is that there'll be a point where frill energy will replace, we won't have to pay for Wi-Fi, internet, electricity, anything like that. Nor should we ever have paid a bill in our lives, but the system enforced that. And now we're taking the system down and we're rolling out the technology that is going to be implemented on our planet. And Dan Willis is a long-term, again, I mean, we're talking 50 years with this one, a former Navy whistleblower back in the days of dit, dot, dot, Morse code, witnessing a giant UFO coming out of the water, reporting on it. This man has spent his life with technology for the betterment of humanity. And like David Adair, has had it caught and killed, repressed, stolen, taken, patented, changed by somebody else. Dan Willis will be there, and the energy is frill F at P. It's an F sounding phonetic, but it's PHRYLL. Nothing to do with the vril Society and Maria Orsich. Nothing to do with that. This is an energy frequency that the universe creates naturally, and that we are learning to harness and to open up to for our betterment on this planet. Dan Willis.
Well, we've only kind of like really discussed a few of the speakers at the conference. I mean, I'll be presenting as well, and I'm going to I'll be kind of talking about, of course, JP and the latest information with JP and assisting him with that, but also be doing a presentation discussing the latest developments with the whole kind of official interest in UFOs, what legislation is being passed, what are the prospects for disclosure, official disclosure in the future, and what can we expect in the future? Because right now, I mean, one of the hot button issues, I think, is the prospect of whether or not they're going to move forward the deep state with some kind of false flag alien event. And so I'll talk about all those things and just kind of present all that information to people. So, I mean, we've only really touched the surface of the incredible presenters at the conference.
Yeah.
So where do people go to find out more about the conference, read about all of the presenters that are going to be there?
Yeah. So it's just 3 words that will take you to the website, guys. That's all you need to remember is Galactic Spiritual Informers. That's it. Galactic Spiritual Informers.com. And that will take you to the website, take you to the tickets. So when you get your tickets, they're still discounted at the moment. And if 3 people come together and make one purchase of at least 3 tickets, you can buy up to 20. But if you make one purchase for 3 tickets, the tickets are like $591 each, or the basic one is $655, and it's 3 days in a beautiful hotel with everything there, with the most incredible 13 speakers you never did see all come together with new technology. We also have beautiful vendors there as well. I was going to say about Tony Rodriguez, we've got so many world firsts again this year, not just JP stepping out on stage, Dan Willis's new technology and information. We've got Tony Rodriguez talking for the first time in the supersonic advances of remote viewing. Unbelievable. And so many other things. I know we're out of time. Gosh, we covered a lot of different areas today, as always, you and I. Gas, gossip. But it's good because there's always so much to say, isn't there? There's so much to share.
Well, I think we covered the main bases, and it's going to be a exciting event. I'm really looking forward to going there, and I just wanted to thank you and acknowledge what you're doing. I know how much work it goes into organizing a conference like this, the kind of risk that's involved on the part of the organizer. And I just encourage people that are watching this video, this is really a great investment. You're going to have a wonderful experience if you go there. And this is a wonderful way of supporting Danny and supporting this movement. And you have the added benefit, if you come, of connecting with members of your star tribe or star family. So I want to thank you, Denny, for being on Exopolitics today, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you, Michael. Love you so much. Thank you.
Aloha.
Aloha.
You have been listening to Exopolitics Today with Dr. Michael Salla. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Join or start a conversation in the comments. Take the time to explore the vast library of best-selling books, webinars, and podcasts by Dr. Salla. Visit exopoliticstoday.com.